awesome in 3D printing for gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Jeffrey J. Thacker, also known as Param, and I'm joined by
Christian Sowers, also known as Seventh Mastery.
Kristen. I am glad for this week. This week, basically, I think my stress levels of
Mm-hmm.
all the work and massive, gigantic projects and globetrotting and
Mm-hmm.
releasing a new edition of our game and,
It's behind you
humongous amount
now.
of things all at once just boiled over.
Oh,
And it's not that I have less work to do, but like a little bubble popped of my give a crap. And so all the stress has melted away
that is not what I
in,
was expecting, but I
into a
do understand the
into a
situation.
bubbling happy brook of depression. Uh
Oh,
so but that does mean that instead of stress, I've allowed my mind to go back to fun things
good,
like planning
good.
3D printing projects and painting up cool things just because I want them.
I had a
And
similar but unrelated experience with
yes.
this weekend's Dungeons and Dragons games. I
Ooh.
I was all prepped up. I got
Mhm.
the eye monster minis that we were talking about last week
Right, right.
with White Wolf Tavern. I printed up a bunch of them. Was all getting ready to like panic paint them. Do
Mhm.
a little slap chop on them. Everything was going great,
Right.
and the person that I had planned the session around canceled.
Oh no.
So it was an opportunity instead to go back and look at old projects that I had
Ooh.
already kind of got halfway there and be
Mhm.
like, okay, where does this match one of the remaining characters? And so I put together a whole night in like an hour and 15 minutes, a whole adventure just about a tournament thing. It was totally
Tournament
that
arc.
tournament arc. I was going to say it was totally the anime tournament arc.
Tournament
and
arc.
and unfortunately, probably could have been like 3 or 4 games, but the way that is a pickup game that we run to fill when another game cancels anyway. So it was like a cancel of a cancel of a cancel.
No.
but
I mean,
yeah,
like, I get it. There is a sort of like cathartic release that happens when plans get canceled and you realize that some of these stress and expectations fade away and you feel
mhm.
I feel guilty about it sometimes, but man, sometimes I just need the dub.
Yeah, and I don't know that I'm gonna say a what did you say? Bubbling gurgle of depression or something.
A happy bubbling brook of depression.
Okay. For me, I would say it was more of a puddle of just surrender, where you just kind of like
Um,
fall back and splatter into the muddy rainwater. You're not worried about it anymore. You're already dirty and wet. Who cares? And you just go. That's where I was at. And James, evening to you.
Hello, James. It's good to see you. This is a good reminder that we record live in front of a YouTube audience. So if you are
Tuesday,
watching this
Tuesday,
live on
Tuesday.
YouTube, you can chat with us and ask us questions during the episodes. We record Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's on you to translate that into many other varieties of time.
But I didn't derail you. So
Mhm.
you got back into some printing projects. What you doing?
Yes,
What
yes.
you doing?
So just basically was like, hey, I want to play some games. We just
Mm-hmm.
did all this work on third edition of OPR, and
Mm-hmm.
while I've played a crap ton of OPR, as you can imagine, I've
You,
not got to play a lot of it just for funsies. It's
yeah, I was
been
gonna
a
say
whole
you got
lot
to
of
play your demo
test
armies,
games,
not your
demos,
personal,
right? So I
right?
was like, time to get these high elves out of the closet, and I get my undead out of the closet. Help my younger sibling get their orcs out of the cupboard, and
Mm-hmm.
let's bash some minis together and just have some funs. And I ended up so I basically built some fun lists and like, hey, I want to do this, but then I'm like, I need some pieces. I need some pieces to these armies now, things that I don't have because the game has changed and my strategies have changed, and also some miniatures fell off shelves into
The
shattery
worst.
tiny pieces.
Yes, yes.
This is sadness. So they needed replacements. I needed so like right now, my high elf list army was basically made for Kings of War when I
Yeah,
was real heavy into Kings of War.
which was rank
And
them up, right? Like the
yeah,
traits and
and
stuff.
that game is a game that rewards just like fields of men,
Right,
hundreds of
right.
infantry. And so like it's a ton and ton and ton of infantry. And I'm like, infantry's fun. I love me some infantry. I'm
But
going to replace some models that I have already painted with some newer models from Last Sword since they've came out with much better models. But more importantly, it's time to paint some beasties. I want
Mm.
some big centerpiece fun things. And just like our printed big episode. So I'm like, I want me a big old dragon. I
Nice.
love me a big old dragon. When dragon is an option, dragon is the right option.
Hmm.
So I've been like out there hunting like different STLs of high elves on dragons, and you would think that that would be a flooded market,
Hmm.
especially with the success of Total War and Emmerich becoming a popular character again, the Dragon Prince Emmerich, who was like
Hmm.
the meme character for Total War, especially with Total War 3 has come out, and one of the playable characters is a female lady dragon that turns into a female lady person. And
Mm.
so the meme is Emmerich making his way all the way to fantasy China to romance said lady dragon. Uh,
I see.
you would think that there would be lots of options, and there are many options, but not lots of options. Ironically, the Wood Elves have so many cool dragons. If you're playing Wood Elves right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
there's so many cool dragons. There's so
Well,
many
especially if you
amazing
like that old
dragons.
hammer vibe, there's a lot of throwback what minis
Yeah,
for
yeah.
what elves.
Yeah, Last Sword has one. Titan Forge has two different Wood Elf
Hmm.
dragons, and Heroes Infinite has one. And there's just so many
And
fantastic
if you
options.
like dragons that are also kind of like tree elementals, you can add
Mhm.
in like another handful of quite a few.
There's half the options of Lord of the Print. Um,
Sure.
there's some really cool forest dragons there that I love, absolutely. But for high elf dragons, I only found four options. Not four options.
Hmm.
I only found a handful of options. One is a very old hammer option from Ilhadil, and I have a lot of Ilhadil's models printed,
Mm.
but they're a bit more old hammer than I ended up going with this.
Right.
So I hate to say it, I'm slowly replacing my Ilhadil models with like more
But I
modern,
mean, I
creepy
get
wood
it.
elf
I get
gear.
it. It looks dated, and especially as an emissary of the hobby, you don't want to show up like unless you're trying for a retro look.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, the no shame to Hilldale's models, but it is very much they look old hammer, and it's not like Monstrous Encounters where it's old hammer through the lens of how you remember old hammer looking, not how it actually looked. No, these Il Hilldale is faithful. It looks like this came right out of 1992
In a
Citadel
blister
Miniatures
pack.
catalog. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And good and good going, Il Hilldale. Great job at executing on exactly what you're going for, and has a fantastic audience for that. But I kind of moved to more of the Last Sword, Titan Forge look, where it's like more modern true scale proportions, much more highly detailed. And Last Sword has four choices for high elves dragons because for some reason they made a hero,
Hmm.
and then they made a unit of three. I don't know what you use that for in any game going, but
My
man,
games.
they look awesome when they're ranked up together.
I mean, my games. I have like literally multiple dragon riders in the same
Mhm.
party sometimes.
Yeah,
So
I could literally make an entire OPR tournament list that would be just those three
those
dragons.
three, right,
Because
right.
when you stat them out, they're like 450 points
Hmm.
uh, each, and then you just throw three of them on the table, and then you're done.
And you're done. Okay,
Yeah,
that's it. Upgrade one of them to a spellcaster.
yeah. One the spellcaster, one you make a coast guard so that it can give the other two +2 defense rolls, and then one you make a standard bearer so that gives all of them attack damage, and then you just kill everything on the table. Which is honestly, hmm,
I mean,
I
honestly, that just sounds like my version of Tyranids when I used to just field really big like Carnifexes and stuff, and just have like my two, my three real minis, and then like
Mhm,
20 Gene Stealers that cost like a
mhm.
point.
Oh.
Because yeah, that's how I used to run my Tyranids.
Gamic has one that looks pretty cool,
Yeah.
and it's kind of on the conservative side, but very nicely detailed, very well posed. Kind of love it. It was probably going to win until I
Hmm.
saw the Last Sword models, and then Titan Forge from downtown made a pair of dragons for high elves that
Hmm.
just looks absolutely
Wait,
glorious.
Titan Forge? I thought you said Titan Forge only had Wood Elves.
No, I they made two different wood elf dragons,
Ah, okay. Okay,
completely
okay, okay.
different styles of wood elf dragons.
Gotcha.
But then, like I said, then Titan Forge, which is teamed up with. The Ninth Age of all things. Really cool that they teamed up with Ninth Age is this indie game, kind of reimagining, basically a continuation of Warhammer Fantasy Battles, which ended in
Hmm.
Eighth Edition, and
Yep.
then they killed it. And so
Yep.
a group of fans got together to make the Ninth Age, which continues the game with the copyright written off. And
Hmm.
it's fairly big in Europe. Actually, it's not so big in the States, and it's very faithful. Like if you want a very faithful game to Old Hammer,
Hmm.
that's the game to play right now, I
I
think.
do like this dragon you're showing off.
And so they made this set of highborn elves, which is the name for high elves in the Ninth Age. I think they're officially partnered. They even use the logos and everything. Um, and then they have the freaking dragon in the center, and it's available as two different dragons: a lunar dragon and a solar dragon. Um,
I mean,
so
it
like,
is fantastic, but there's only one mini I can really see there because I keep failing my saving throw.
which is the mini you keep seeing there? Is it the horrible eye beast?
Of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So this set also came. So what Titan Forge does is they're really cool. They have, for those of you not familiar, they release a war game section and
Uh-huh.
then an RPG section, and you get both for the same
You get
subscription.
both, and it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and either one of them could honestly carry the $10 subscription by itself,
Absolutely.
easy.
Absolutely.
And
Just
often they will
just look
theme
at
the
that
two
good boy.
together so that the RPG section can serve as hero units for the war game section if you want to. Like this one came with like a high elf wizard, a female high elf wizard that could totally go in with the rest of the
The army. Yeah.
elves. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like just like the coolest little female kobold bard just rocking a get fiddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig it, but I, of course, I'm just looking at my little
I
boy,
could
my
not
little.
tell you how many people work at Titan Forge, Blasted Camouflage. I would imagine. Actually, I can't say because I actually know the answer and I'm not supposed to say. So I can't
Okay.
say. I can't
Well, I
comment on
mean,
that.
the other thing to consider with all
Mhm,
gaming companies, and this is many companies, and
mhm,
this is RPG companies,
mhm.
there are business people who are part of the company, and then there are freelancers, and that creates a highly volatile and variable roster. You can have companies that are just three core business people, one core business person. We know tons of the mini companies that are on my mini factory are just a single person,
Mhm.
and then there are people who have dozens of people, and there are people who have dozens of freelancers, and really even some of these companies change from month to month, like what they are. So I
If
don't know
you
that we could give an answer that would actually be accurate anyway.
if you go back to the interview we did with Titan Forge last year,
Hmm.
you will find that the answer they gave at the time was many,
Hmm. Oh,
many people. Um,
yes, I do recall that there was a decent amount
yeah,
of
yeah.
folks.
So a bunch of people. Um, But what I like about this one is the dragon is available with multiple options to build it. So, like, it can be built as a solar dragon or a lunar dragon. They look very
Hmm.
different. So, if I had two of them on the table, they would look very different. It's available with and without saddle. It
Yep.
has a rider that is not permanently bound to that saddle.
Hmm.
Um, and also, they have a not techless model that comes with this set that is available. So
I
if I
can't.
wanted to recreate the techless pose of the actual official techless model, I could put this dragon and then I could take that cape and glue it to the edge of the wing so that he's just literally hovering next to the dragon and it would look absolutely badass. And I'm kind of thinking I might want to do that. The downside to this particular dragon is
Hmm.
it's a monster. It is a humongous beastie
I'm
that
hearing
I do
feature,
not
not
know
bug.
where to store it. If I were to print it, it would have to have permanent shelf presence and it would probably deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, again, like if you can print it and you want it, then
Hmm.
this is not as big an issue to me. But I also understand that there's some reality behind the situation.
Hmm. I would basically, behind me, you might see like a big old dragon statue. It would have to replace that dragon statue and become the new dragon statue. It would also be a way that my airbrush got to work out because, oh boy, is this a mini that's just begging for an airbrush. And speaking of which, there's a fantastic Goobertown video that I think a lot of miniature painters should look at called "Maybe You Need an Airbrush," because like the meta in the space of painting tutorials is always to say every time they use an airbrush, they have to go, and you don't need an airbrush, because for a long time, basically anytime a painter used an airbrush in a video, you would just get like hundreds of comments of people and like, I saw the airbrush and I stopped watching because who can afford an airbrush, or why would, I
Right.
don't want an airbrush. And so the meme was, you don't need an airbrush would be like this third line of every tutorial video the second they touched one to do like their priming or to put the zenithal out. And then
Right.
Goobertown did a really great video that I recommend everybody watching called Maybe You Need an Airbrush, because it like talks about like they're not as expensive as you think they are, and they can do incredible work. And while you can do all sorts of things with a brush, everything you do with an airbrush you can do with a brush given enough time.
Hmm.
um, those are orders of magnitude larger amounts of time.
Yeah, I would say if you're not like, okay, I will defend the old school, less interested in airbrush on small minis. I would
Hmm.
say on small minis, especially if you're slab chopping, table ready, you can compete with an airbrush. But as soon as you get onto a big mini, I would say at large, you start to get questionable. At huge, you're definitely in airbrush territory, or really creative
Hmm.
rattle can priming shenanigans. And you'll never get the same results you get with your airbrush on a big mini
I
in the same time.
I crack my airbrush out for a few reasons. One is if I'm prepping and I want like a really crisp, glorious zenithal, I'll crack it out to do the zenithal highlighting.
Hmm.
Um, or if I am like doing a ton of models that are going to be monochrome, like or have
Sure.
like Space Marines kind of painting, or like a uniform that's like going to be majorly one color, or if I'm going to put out a ton of primarily metallic models, like suits
Yep.
of armor, like the Stormcast Eternals that I painted for my younger sibling. I pulled the airbrush out to put paint to basically the base coat, the primer, then silver. All those models are very silver and
Hmm.
highlighted with the airbrush because that's just the best way to do that particular thing.
Yeah.
But for most infantry, they don't get an airbrush ever, ever, ever. Even though I have one here, super convenient. Anytime I can want it, I can just snap it out and clean it in 2 seconds. It's not even a problem. Like I only crack it out for certain things. But the second I touch a big old critter like this, airbrush coming out. Or often, you know what gets the most use when I'm
Mm.
painting terrain.
Oh,
Terrain,
interesting. I mean,
um,
I've done it. I've done it for sure.
super useful for the airbrush for like when I'm doing, but just because it's just so much easier to get like humongous patches of transition colors out super easy with an airbrush.
One of the things I do love for terrain work with
Mhm.
airbrushes is when you're doing like aging effects or creeping up mold on corner pieces and stuff. That is perfect. You know, you get that little teeny, you know,
Mhm.
just very subtle creep, and you can control it. Um, I just barely got a hand trigger one that I've been playing with, and I'm much happier with it. I don't know what it is about the little top trigger.
Mhm.
It is arcane, and it
Mhm.
strikes me as like,
Oh, so you're a pistol grip fan.
yeah, yeah, I definitely like the pistol grip way better.
Don Juan Don has said, "I'm actually airbrushing terrain right now while listening."
Hey, there you go.
I'm not. Yeah, and like I don't do a lot of time. Like the one other time I used an airbrush a lot was towards the end of the zombies, like doing
You
that
got really
underglow
good at
effect.
that. Yeah,
So 90% of that undead army, all of that was done with dry brushing.
but you did the underglows with the
No, with
with.
dry brushing.
Oh, okay. I thought you
Yeah.
did most of it, the underglow with the
But towards
airbrush.
the end, about zombie 37 out of 50, I was like, let's see if the airbrush can speed this up.
Yeah.
And the answer is not really.
With minis, they're small. So I because you have to be controlled. I agree that it's not super, not a
Well,
ton more.
what ended up happening is the airbrush put the glow on it really good, but then I had to come back and wash it
Mm,
because because the dry brush version left the shadows dark.
gotcha. But the
And
airbrush was
so
just
the
kind of
airbrush
going there
just
and doing everything.
pounces it, and so I had to come back in
Yep.
with Nuln Oil just to get my crevices back. And either one of those two things, I think honestly the airbrush version is probably the easier of the two, but
Hmm.
it didn't save me any time, and I was
Yeah.
trying to save time on those dang zombies because oh my god, so many zombies.
I will say I had pretty good results with airbrushing my I
Mhm.
can't believe it's not Night Gaunt's
Mhm.
army. That was both with rattle can and airbrushing, just super fast. But the other thing I would use it for, and specifically what you're doing, is on dragon wings. The wing
Mhm.
gradients airbrushes just are so sweet.
And of course, I couldn't get me a cool new dragon
Hmm.
without younger sibling getting their
That's
cool
a
new
good
dragon.
brother. Getting and look at that chunky boy.
Yeah. Ironically, went back to Titan Forge because honestly, I just remembered they did this model and it's just so awesome.
Can you zoom in
It's
on
from
his
their
head a little bit?
Badlands.
He
Hmm?
looks like kind of happy.
Yeah.
Like he's not just scary and big and massive for those of you
Hmm.
listening. He also looks like I'm here to mess stuff up and I'm so excited.
So they've got this really big orc army that is huge. It's like because it got printed twice,
Yeah.
and it was additive, and most of it was Artisan Guild, and then um and so they need a big old Werven for the general to ride. And I remembered this model from Titanforge just from their Badlands Orc set,
Hmm.
and it is humongously massive and chonky and lovely and very happy big old dragon. It's not quite how do you say the name of the chonk dragon from the D&D movie?
Thumbershod,
Yeah, it's
yeah, Thumbershod, I think. I
it's
don't know.
not quite Thimbershod, but it is pleasantly beefy.
I have heard
Um,
another pronunciation we will not use on air.
and I'm printing it right now on my Saturn,
Hmm.
and I love my little Saturn. You know I love my Saturn.
Yes.
It all fit on
You're
one
not
build
so
plate.
little, Saturn. Go on.
It all fit on one build plate, and it will
Yep.
be done in 7 hours. And this thing's wings are humongously tall on that. It's like it's gonna be like 2,700 layers to print,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be done with that in 7 hours. And so I'm
Nice.
just like, "Oh my gosh, I love you, little Saturn. You were such a lovely printer. I'm so glad I did the upgrade."
It's on the dockets for next year, but it's got a while to
Mhm.
till I do that. Um, Speaking of which, I went through a big purge. I think I told you this. I dropped a
Yeah, you
whole
told me you
bunch.
purged.
Yeah, like
And
over
by that, I
half.
mean all your family is safe.
Yes, my family is safe. I did a Patreon tribes winnow down,
Mhm.
and over half of the subs I had that weren't annuals because I'm not counting annuals. To me, that's a hey, I have a little extra this month. I'm going to buy an annual and just have that kind of like floating there, like the Death Star, and just giving me awesome
Mhm.
blasts every so often. But I'd unsubbed from Titanforge actually. I felt bad. But
Mm.
then, of course, one of the things I've been focusing on a lot right now is the connection between D&D lore and MTG lore, and there's some
Mhm.
whole bunch of stuff. And if you haven't heard me blab about it, Ixalan is actually Mystara, and there's this whole like they're pulling it back. In the Hollow World of Ixalan is also the Hollow World from the Hollow World box set way back, super revised, but like still very a cool reveal. And of course, now they're doing pirate ogres, which was a thing in Ixalan, and now I'm gonna just have to resub back up because they have pirate ogres, and they're on hippos.
Yeah, I saw that set, and I hate to say it, like, I have had twice now, I've planned out doing an ogre army,
Hmm.
and I just never found the ogres I love to make that army whole. I found some ogres I love, but there's not enough of them to make the whole army.
Right.
And then I found ogres I don't love that would make the whole army. But those Titan Forge pirate ogres and those hippos sure do look great.
They do. They do. And where else can you get that nice, mashup of dino riders and pirate ogres? I mean, it's gonna work for me. And I do agree with you, Blasted Samophalange. There are certainly elements in those worlds that I would prefer didn't exist.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. It sounds great, and also that if to go with those pirate ogres,
Hmm.
if you want a cool hero model that will match well with them,
Hmm.
Artisan Guild, one of their early models is a pirate ogre with a big old cannon riding a crab.
Ooh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that would go well with those and be a great accent. And I bet it's one you already have.
Probably, probably.
I,
Although they
that's
don't. That
mm,
might have been like right before. Like I might have started right after that,
mhm.
but I'm not
this
sure.
this is kind of where I'm going to say something I don't like saying because I want to encourage your pair down.
Hmm. Go on.
I when I was going through this exploration of trying to find cool models to print to do these projects,
Hmm.
I kind of loved the pile of shame or the digital drive of opportunity
You mean all your
because I
backlist
got
you
the
just have hovering there? You mean?
because I opened it up and I'm like, well, what'll make my decision easier is if I already own it, it goes higher up on the priority list.
Sure, sure.
And so the massive library of models that didn't get printed suddenly became this gigantic asset of, oh, I had this orc dragon. Oh, I had these 5 different high elf dragons. Oh, look at this lion dude. He
Yeah.
would be such a cool piece to paint for no freaking reason whatsoever other than he's a cool lion dude.
That was me. I was looking back at, the stuff. I was trying to find the files for the I files, the
Hmm.
I monsters that I wanted for my game.
Hmm.
And I saw that I also have the creature caster release from last month. And I don't know if you remember or if you saw what it was, but it is lust demons that are some of
Ooh.
the coolest lust demon sculpts I
I
have
haven't
ever
seen it. You'll have
seen.
to share these with me and let me see them because I
Oh,
need
and
to.
I had this like whole moment where I was just about like suddenly making additions to my old chaos OPR list,
Hmm.
demon, whatever. But there
Oh,
were less
gotcha.
demon models. They're just so gorgeous, so amazing.
Mm.
And then of course that made me start opening some Kickstarter stuff that I had backed.
Hmm.
And it just, yeah, so much stuff.
Yeah, I mean having the now I don't recommend just willfully subscribing to everything just cause and don't let FOMO rule you.
Yes, because
But
it will rule you if you let it, and I
but
fight
even if
this
you
every month.
even if you follow my guideline, my guide, I stick by my recommendation of the guideline. If you will print 2 models from this set, it's worth the $10.
And will print here. You have to use that will print because
Right.
if you would want to print, then you still just go right back with that roll.
Yeah. If you will use 2 models out of this set, it was worth the effort. And then
Yeah,
everything else is a bonus.
right.
Using that mantra, and only keeping 10 subscriptions going, um, I was able to build up because I capped myself at 10. Like for the past, all for the entire time of this podcast, I tried to keep myself at 10 um, subscriptions, and it still resulted in literal thousands of
Oh yes.
STLs to just dig through of
Oh,
all sorts of fun varieties.
tens of thousands
Mhm.
for me.
Oh, I can't even. I don't even know where you'd keep them. Like, do you have like in your closet? Is there just like a Tron-esque RAID array that just keeps all your mini files? And how on earth
There
do you
is
even
there
search that
is
many?
a I think it's a 4 or 5 terabyte drive that's just for mini files.
Hmm.
And that's just the stuff that I'm, for whatever reason, for sure worried that it could go away, which,
Hmm.
paranoia could be anything. But
I mean, it kind of is leading me into our a couple of our news topics with that paranoia, though.
yeah, yeah. But like as the last word on it, honestly, how I search,
Hmm.
I go to my manufactory and search and
I
like,
do
do
the
I
same
do
damn
I already
thing.
own this?
I do the exact same thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Oh.
it's easier, especially now that most companies forward your files. I still have a couple out there where it's like, you know, and some people do it better than others. I really don't have any problem with the way Here's Infinite manages their website,
Hmm.
and I do usually download those just in case because it is kind of an island. But
Yeah.
their organization and setup is really nice.
Yeah.
But there are a couple people, and I don't want to like bag on people, so I'm not going to call out names. But a couple people where I go to their site and I'm just like, just please let me forward this to my manufacturer because I hate your site so much. Anyway,
There are 3 that I sub to that do not use my mini factory. Okay, that I'm using their websites for instead.
Hmm. Yeah.
Heroes Infinite.
Hmm.
You
It's one
can
of mine.
use My Mini Factory, but you don't get all the models. They
Correct.
always do a bonus pose for each unit if
And
you
at each
serve with them.
level for each unit, yeah. If you're using their site, you
Yeah,
get substantially more at Overlord for sure.
yeah. Um, Last Sword, because they have their own website that is very well put together, very nice.
Okay.
Hmm. You don't like their website?
I do not. I hate it.
Uh,
Hate it.
uh,
So, and maybe it's just been bad experiences. Particularly one of the Kickstarter redemptions that I had was oof. Anyway. Go ahead. I'm not
oh,
trying to. I'm not trying to bag anything. They're
and
they're
then
they're good quality product. So,
a new one to add to the list
hmm?
is One Gold Piece has recently announced that they are stopping distribution through My Mini Factory.
Ooh.
The main I can kind of understand there because it's one gold piece.
Hmm.
It's literally $1 for everybody, so they don't
This
make a
moves into
ton of
one of
money.
my things for our not news topic, our other topic, but
And I can kind of forgive them on this one because I intimately know how much of a pain in the butt it is
yeah, just for
to
one.
put things on digital storefronts.
Right. Oh, me too. But
Yeah, yeah,
more from a PDF perspective from mine.
yeah.
So nowhere near the complexity you're
I
dealing
make a
with.
monthly round through Drive Through,
Hmm.
Only Games, and
Hmm.
My Mini Factory.
Yep.
It is not a fun experience to do these works, even
Yep.
when these websites are trying their best, and not to malign any websites. So I can understand not wanting to do that work, especially if it's not making you a ton of money. And this
Hmm.
is meant to be with one gold piece, it's literally just Westphalia's artist wanting to just have an outlet for fun projects that aren't and just enough money to justify doing them. It's not meant to be it's not meant to be a
It's meant to be a supplemental income, not
yeah,
a
yeah.
primary income.
Yeah, yeah, it's not meant to be make a fortune.
Right. Right. Blasted Salmon Flange is also preempting
Mhm.
my conversation.
Yeah, yeah. That's a different topic that I'm looking forward to. In this case, I I can understand it, but it does mean that I have to go back to the dark days of getting stuff off the Patreon and making sure I
Ugh.
do it every month.
Ugh,
And I will do
no.
it for one gold piece because they have been so good to me over the years, but I really don't want to ever go back
There's
to
a
that again.
handful of people I would do it for, and fortunately, almost all of them, because I used to do it for Cobra Mode back
Hmm.
in the day, and now Cobra Mode's got their stuff all integrated, and it's not a problem anymore. Which, oddly enough, I then subscribed to their annual again as soon as they did that.
Hmm. I
So
don't know where I was going with this conversation before this because it's gotten
you
derailed
said you were
four
going to talk
times.
about a news item, and I think we should do news item because we're halfway through and we're not to our news
Oh,
yet.
news time. And we haven't even got to the main topic yet.
Right,
News time.
news
News
time.
time. We'll start with the bad news.
Bad
A
news.
lot of creators on cults don't exist anymore.
Oh,
G Dubs has come out with the ban hammer.
uh-oh.
It's taken away the creator, who I actually don't even know their real name because they were only referenced in a recent video as quote unquote the creator, and they did really awesome Tyrannid alt sculpts,
I hope I downloaded all those because I did get some of those. I
and
remember.
they're gone now.
Oh noes.
GW Nuke Cannon, and and then several other creators have also been nuked. They to be fair, I'll be straight up honest with you. A lot of these creators a lot of the stuff that got taken down was extremely on the nose, is
Oh,
a
I will
kind
say the
way of
stuff
saying.
I downloaded, both for the
Uh-huh.
Tyranid and my Nurgle army,
Hmm.
looked like it was straight out of a GW box. Like
Yep.
it was so good, but
Hmm.
meaning too good, probably
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
their lawyers.
And it's not like Titan Forge or the other one I love so much, Puppets War, where they are as good as GW, but
Right,
original sculpts with
right.
completely original like art.
I would
It's
put Gamic in that as well. Gamic's,
Gamic, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, Gamic. It's boy, that's a 1-to-1 match that I couldn't
yeah.
tell which one was which.
Right, right. Like that looks like a different pose
Yeah.
of the official sculpt.
Yeah. And I'm not going to, like I said, what you choose to do with fan art. I still strongly think that fan art is fan art as long
Hmm.
as it's not being monetized. Um, but GW lawyers seem to think a completely different thing. And this is another time to remind you that I'm not a lawyer. More importantly, I'm
Hmm.
not your lawyer.
Nor
So
am
these
I.
are just opinions of an internet talking head.
Yep.
Hmm.
We like the hobby and we like things getting made, and we will use those things when they're accessible, but
Hmm.
they might not always be accessible if you're dancing on the third rail, so to speak.
So this just might be a time to remind everybody that anything the cloud is just another name for somebody else's computer, and if it's
Mm-hmm.
not your computer, it can go away.
Yep.
And if it's your computer, you should back up responsibly.
I was supposed to say, for the anti-FOMO message we had earlier, this is a time that FOMO is very appropriate if you want to keep those
I'm
files.
just saying responsibly back up your
Yeah,
data.
sure, sure.
Mhm. um let's move on to more fun news.
Yes, fun news
Fun news.
yeah,
It's
news.
been a week. That means Elegoo
So,
has new printer.
new printer, and this one's a big deal.
It is really a big deal. Elegoo announced a new printer. Not the one I was expecting.
Not anything I was expecting ever.
The Orange Storm Giga. Completely new naming convention.
Yes.
Gigantic in size, as they show a person
Person
that could
inside it.
easily sit inside of it.
It's funny because we were talking about making these like with kits and stuff.
I was
I mean,
thinking about like following some of the YouTube tutorials and building one myself out of like angle brackets and stepper motors.
but
The Elga's done that for us. We
yeah,
do not know a ton about this printer. We just have a picture of it with just the size measurements of 800 by 800 by 1000 millimeters.
I was laughing because, of course, to me, I look at that and think big piles of nightmare filament mess. Apparently, Param's thinking furniture.
So, like, yeah, it's like what you could do with a printer this size is just craziness. Like, if you do cosplay, this is your dream printer.
Oh yeah, that is
This is
breastplate
assuming
in a
this is
single job.
assuming that it is reliable and feature rich and as good as the other printers they've made. It's a Core XY printer,
Hmm.
so that's nice.
Hmm.
Um,
But yeah, that's one of the bane of a lot of those printed pieces is the structural integrity, and so being able to drop your whole breastplate or central armor piece in
mhm,
one go,
mhm.
that's going to be very appealing to a lot of people.
As far as any sort of gaming terrain, like you told me when you first saw it, this is going to be a glorious printer. You can do honestly, an entire game table's worth of terrain
Mm.
in one go.
You
Um,
could print an entire game table.
yeah, and that was what I was thinking is like I could custom build a table to play on with this thing. And oh boy, would I have so much fun with that. Like honestly, if I had this printer, it would be irresponsible the cool crap I would make with it. I would disappear down a rabbit hole. And also my pocketbook would scream at me because of the amount of filament I would be buying to
Yeah, that's a
power
lot of
something like this.
filament.
Like there Elegoo has announced that they're starting to release 5 kilogram drums of filament instead of the usual 1 kilogram drum. And it's easy to see why someone might want
And you
that
still
now.
need to change it 3 times during the print job.
I know, right? You could print, like, you could literally print a chair to sit in this thing.
Yeah.
Um, I just
Alec?
really want it. I have no idea where I'd put it because obviously a 3D printer that is capable of printing that much space, and it's an enclosed printer. Like it's an enclosed frame. It doesn't so it's not a bed slinger. It's a full frame kind of like the X1C or some other printers you've seen like this. And you kind of need that when you're slinging this much weight
Oh
around.
yeah, with the vibration and stuff, I'm sure it would be a nightmare if it was trying to move
But
it
you
all
could
around.
think about it like the entire tavern that you're adventuring in could be printed in one go.
Yeah, yeah.
All 3 floors.
It would make it much more appealing to me to bust out, because I had a sub for about 2 years to, gosh, what was it? the is it tablesmith, trainsmith? I don't know. It was like a big building builder set, and you got all
Mhm.
sorts of modular pieces that you could then just automatically create STLs with, and it was very easy to make STLs that were straining even my big, Mega X.
Mhm.
Um, and then of course you ran into the problem with that one with the bed slinging stuff and the head moving around too much, and I would get failures. And this would be the way to print that stuff.
Right. Forget playing Kill Team at 1/72 scale. You could play Kill Team 1/1 scale.
Nice. Uh, Alex
Oh,
seconds your dragon. Dragon is the right answer if dragon is possible,
yes.
and it
Thank you,
apparently has
Alex.
started running Kingmaker.
Ooh. Ooh.
I
If you're
l-
running the new book, let me know what you think when you get to my part.
Isn't that weird too? I was like,
It's so
oh,
fun.
it's like when someone runs Mistress of the Maze. I'm like, oh, did you like it? And people are always like, Mr. Chitters, and they have like trauma on their face. Anyway,
Oh,
I'm not going to say anything else about it in case you haven't played it or want to play it ever. But
yeah. Oh gosh. Honestly, just like we don't know much of the details about this, what kind of software is involved in it, like how fast it's going to print or anything like that. We don't even know the price. And I'm imagining the price is going to be a zero more than I want to pay for anything.
oh yeah, I'm
Um,
sure. I'm sure. It is
but
cool though, because if this is Elegoo and facing our market already, just imagine 5-10 years from now what it's going to be.
mhm.
It's going to be so cool.
What do you think about them giving up the planted nomenclature?
I mean, unless they're going to go to like cosmological scale, like
Mhm.
the galaxy, the black hole, like where are we going to go, right?
I mean, they could have gone with like
Although the
this printer could be, you know, Soul.
or given the amount of material it's going to suck in, you could have just called it singularity.
Ouch. Oh my gosh. Ugh.
All right.
Any other fun news?
I mean, uh, there's some Kickstarters out there, but I think we've talked about most ones I've been excited about already. The rum one, the the pirate one was cool, but I think we should get into the other one because we don't have a lot of time.
Oh gosh, yeah, we are running low on time. We haven't even touched on the topic. Um, boy, do we want to just save the topic for next week, considering
Maybe.
what day it next
May-
week is?
Oh, is it the day?
It's the day.
It's the day, but then people aren't going to be able to print it. But
This
okay,
is true.
I don't
Alex, I can't answer that question.
know. Ask a
Uh,
your friend. Nice.
so okay, let's speed run this. It's spooky season. We've got 20 minutes left of podcast.
Yep.
We're going to talk about our favorite spooky prints that are available. Do you mind if I go first?
No, not at all. And mine has a slight proviso. Assume that I'm skipping some tentacles because I always talk about tentacles and demons and horror monsters. So I'm going to be talking about some weird stuff.
And this is true because I there are a lot of people that have taken advantage of it's spooky season. It's time to do our vampires or our undead or whatever. And so I picked things that were very spooky specific, like
Yes,
embracing the
specific is a
holiday.
great word. Our specifically spooky lists. I
Yes.
think like that's good.
I'm going to start with a fun one. Also,
Okay,
my list leans on the cute side.
that's okay.
And that is going to be
Oh, he's adorable.
Void Ghost from our friends over at Den of Imagination. They're very creepy, ghosty monsters in very cute costumes, but very sinister. So this like straddles that line between silly and amazing.
Yep, yeah, and this is something I'm just gonna throw out there, by the way, for all of the Patreon stuff and Tribe stuff this month, check
Mhm.
their bonus offerings. There's a lot of fantastic little Halloween add-ons like this.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be talking about one of them with one of mine, where
Mhm.
like you won't even know it's there because it's just from like a Patreon only post or something. So like
Mhm.
sniff around, you might be surprised at the little kind of cute or scary little values, and the horror mouth dropping out from underneath the cute sheet there is kind of upsetting.
Yep.
So I like it.
Then speaking of a spooky specific Patreon add-on, I
Mm-hmm.
really want to call out Cast and Play for going above and beyond this time
Mm-hmm.
with
What's that?
their Headless Horseman or Headless Knight.
Ooh, that's pretty
It's
good.
just like Cast and Play always goes so extra with their posing and their details and their bases, and it's very animated. It's very Disney, if
Yep.
Disney was wicked and cruel. And they just did it again. Like, this is a lot of different people are doing their take on the Headless Horseman this year. And right now I just think Cast and Play killed it. This is the best Dullahan boss that you could go up against. So it's like both spooky season appropriate,
Mm-hmm.
very specifically spooky season,
Mm-hmm.
and then also very useful for the game table. Like, if
Oh,
like how many Dullahan miniatures do you have? I only have 4.
I think I'm printed. I have like two or well, I have some pre-paints and then probably one or two printed, and I
Mm,
probably have I don't know 10 files.
okay, unfair for me to ask you that question, but most people don't have a lot of Dullahans.
True.
Mhm. Then
Nice.
next one I want to call out is
Um,
Heroes and Beasts this month, their
mm,
release on their
okay.
tribes.
Interesting.
Mhm.
You don't normally talk about them very much.
Classic Universal monsters.
Oh,
And I love
can you
classic Universal
can you
monsters.
zoom in a little bit because I'm not quite seeing it. Okay, so we've got like these are like movie monsters,
Yeah. Like, so you've got Vampira, Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback of Notre Dame,
and then
Martian,
very very much like in that old school style. It's cool, like
Claude
that.
Rains is over here. You got Bride of Frankenstein, the
Ooh,
Tingler. I mean, I didn't think anybody would reach for the Tingler here. They're available as statue scale, miniature play scale, and busts. So even if you just want some spooky decorations for spooky season, this is a great way to do it. And like, just the classic Universal monsters don't get a lot of love these days, especially in the 3D print realm.
hmm,
And they just did a very good job of providing them in a lot of different formats. So I was like, yay.
nice.
I'm calling one out from last year
Oh, okay,
because I think it's so cool that it would be a useful thing to has.
okay. Let's see it.
It is from Mini Monster Mayhem.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
I
You know,
think you already know what it is.
I stand them already, so.
Mhm. It's their candy bucket. They're horrifically all KC open mall body horror monstrosity candy bucket.
I'm just gonna say that whole set. There's a whole set of those things.
Mhm.
Like it's adorable slash creepy.
And you get the bucket, and you also get a gameplay version of it with
Yep.
this kit. So it's wonderful and horrific and traumatizing, and I just hope you like it. I'm also going to give a shout out. This is just a shout out to, because we already kind of talked about it. Uh, Dragon Trappers Lodge for
Yeah.
this is like, if you want spooky minis, they are the place to be right now.
It is a pile.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, someone did solve their scavenger hunt already.
Oh yeah, I saw that this morning. That was great. I was worried that it wasn't going to happen because of
Well,
how
honestly, because
hard they bragged
the
it
first
was going to
couple clues,
be.
I was like, I had no idea. I was like, that's something to do with a cave, is what as far as I got. But yeah.
And the reason I'm shouting them out, we talked to them last episode, so you can listen, not last 2 episodes ago, so you can go back and listen to that. But basically, they're if you sub this month, you get all of their past Halloween sets and their new one.
Hmm.
So it's just like a lot of Halloween spookiness for a very little amount of money. So just like, they just got the value. Plus, also they're really good pieces.
Yeah.
And this month's version has the Scooby Gang and the
Yep.
Adams Family.
Just I think it just has Gomez. I don't think it has the rest yet,
I
does
thought
it?
Morticia was hanging out of
Oh,
here
maybe.
somewhere.
I do. I also just would say, again, totally worth it just for the dragons
Hmm.
or the mimic knights. You would pay those that much for it, and you're getting all that extra stuff. So it's absurd.
And a shout out also to our Goon Master,
Mm,
who has lumpkins. If you want some gourd leshies or just some very cute pumpkins, I think they did. There's a lot of people doing very cute pumpkin figures right now, pumpkin people and gourd leshies. I just think Goon Masters did the best ones, so that's why they're on my list. And I have one other Halloween thing to shout out to, which is a project that I was up to this weekend. It was
Mm,
flexing my 3D printing muscles with a friend who was flexing their 3D printing and engineering muscles.
mm,
We got together. My friend Chris, he's part of our gaming group, had wanted to print a jack o' lantern that he was going to put a Raspberry Pi and a motion sensor into, so that when you passed in front of it, it would do various things that you can do when you put a computer inside a pumpkin. Uh,
as you
so
do.
it's got um, and so he needed some help doing some custom. It's like he got a pumpkin file off Thingiverse and scaled it up and hollowed it out and like installed the mounting points for all the hardware like pre-installed in the sculpting phase. And then
Hmm.
I got in there with my got my artistic flex out and started like carving out the face and the eyes and smoothing everything out and making it all look really polished.
Hmm.
And then he printed it on his Neptune, and we met up with his house for the weekend, and I helped him paint it. Showed him how to do like different painting techniques and masking things off and using spray paint and then hobby paint and all that jazz. And we put it all together, and then he put all the engineering guts into it, and it turned out fairly nice.
Cool.
He's
Cool,
going
cool.
to enter it into a pumpkin carving contest. I think that's kind of cheating.
Wow, that's interesting.
Hmm. And
What's the
it's
boogeyman?
kind of pretty
As a
cool.
matter of fact, it was.
Nice.
And yeah.
That's cool. I like it.
Mhm. So it's not gaming related, but it was really fun to like flex that aspect of 3D printing
Oh,
too.
whatever. It could totally be like the mayor of Halloween Town's
Mhm.
house. Just put a
It's like a foot big.
yeah, you
He had
just
to
put like
print
a
it in
little.
sections, and he
Mm.
used embedded magnets so that it just like attaches itself
See,
together.
even better. Now it's modular. You could totally like you could just put a pumpkin facade on the great fortress of Halloween Town.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's cool. So what do you got? What do you got? What do you got?
I'm kind of in a similar vein. I really tried to pull up some stuff that I thought was unusual. For instance, I'm not a big bust person, right?
Hmm.
But Mia K did a Kickstarter,
Hmm.
and it is steampunk themed, but it's also got a very strong mad scientist vibe, and it has a Warforged gunslinger model in it that is possibly the coolest like take on a Warforged, like
Hmm.
in the steampunk. Like it's such a specific mini that I was just like, this right there, like I would actually consider printing the bust and painting it. Uh he's very articulated, very much got a little tiny Day of the Dead energy. He's right there on the left of that image. Big old like crazy hat, and he's just like so specifically the energy, and you could totally use it for like a villain, like a cool creepy Warforged villain, although I have a feeling that's going to mostly end up PC characters
Hmm.
minis. And this also has a whole bunch of steampunk mad scientist stuff. So if you're doing a mad scientist Halloween one shot, this little Kickstarter is probably something you might want to look at. I know this one is going to probably be a next year project because it's a Kickstarter, but it was unusual enough that it jumped out at me enough. Like it's got like the mad scientist with a big tank on his back and steampunk wing guy and giant mecha horses, and that fox is
Hmm.
so cool,
RoboFox is cool.
and it has the goodest boy, multiple pose, steampunk tech dog. If you have a steel defender artificer, for
He
instance,
protect, he attack.
he's super duper cute. But again, mostly just sold for that one bust to me. Like I was like, that is so neat. And just a good, flavorful little offering that I don't think a lot of people would have seen because it's not like main lane for me. But
Mhm.
her stuff's really fun. So that was my first one.
Mhm.
Second one is very much a typical me stand, but it is very unusual offering Battle Yak's stuff this month. The Twilight Calliope. Um,
I like Calliope.
Twilight Calliope. I think I sent you the link there. It is a collection of like weird uh, carnival clown monster things. I don't even know how to describe them. They're like jester clowns. Like imagine is it Zon, the two from Final Fantasy 9, Zon and I forget the other one's name, but they're like two little creepy gestures. But like, not only are they these little like twisted, dark, tasseled jester clown creatures, but their weapons themselves are also creatures when you look at them close up. And it was such an unusual touch on the minis, that their like swords and their knives all have like teeth of their own, and like it's the details where it gets creepy, and it's very much not my normal jam, but it felt very on brand for like a cool Halloween set.
Yeah, and I love Battle Yak stuff. They always do like really flavorful options. So
Yeah. And also, if you are on a Necron proxy player, next month he's updating his Null set, which is his Necrons. There it is. Okay, yeah. Like look at that centerpiece too. Just zoom in on that boy, that the ringmaster thing or whatever it is.
it's
And
already like nightmare fuel, my dude. I don't
he
want
has
to look at it
he has a
anymore.
big giant gummy toothy mouth full of little things with little things crawling out of it. Like, it's just, yeah.
This is like a Tim Burton
Yes, like
circus.
Tim Burton circus, and then the little weapons themselves, as you zoom in, have like little teeth and stuff in the weapons.
The jesters have axes that have mouths on them.
Yes. And it was such an unusual set, especially because Battleyak's been doing much more, I don't want to say like uh proxyable releases, but it kind of felt like the last couple have been more in that line of like, oh, I'm going to use this for this, or this will be really good for a D&D, whatever. This to me felt just so its own thing, and there's enough minis, and it's a modular kit again, where you could build a whole army of these Twilight Calliope jester clown monster things and creep people out for forever. Let's see, popping off from there. I had not seen this creator. This is and this is what I was talking about earlier with the single mini release. This is not a $1 tribe, but I think it's like a $3 or $4 Novak Dawn.
Single the link.
It's the third one in the list there. The first three are kind of all grouped together. It looks like it's all just Mia K's Kickstarter, but it's the third link in the list. Anyway, it is this month's release is he's Lord Dracomir or Drahomir, big huge skeleton guy, super creepy. Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. Big dude. It has a bust size as well, and this is just a single mini every month. That's the whole thing. I found this a little too late. It has one of the coolest necromancers from 2 months ago. She's such an awesome mini. You should go look at her. But this is where I think it's interesting. Like, you were kind of saying the $1 Patreon tribe thing, and I think it's probably something we're gonna have to dive into on another show because of our time constraints today. But like, to me, this is sort of thing, like, if this is the quality and the thing I'm getting, this is like a hero character for an undead army every month, basically, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's worth it. But at the same time, I have been seeing this new trend, especially on Patreon, mm-hmm. when you cancel your sub and they put you in a free mode. Yeah. And that, okay. I can't imagine that's great for creators, and it's super annoying to me. But again, we're gonna have to talk about it later. But at the same time, there's that FOMO moment where you don't really want to lose visibility, right? So you don't. And I'm sure that's creating all sorts of. We actually had a creator a couple months ago saying that it looked like they had like way more people now than they do, and they were kind of mad about it. So anyway, last couple. Clay Cyanide has Mortis Bane, I think is what it's called. It is let's see. Big, huge. It's going to be a 3-act set of undead. So to me, it's a really solid, cool, like bone armor undead looking thing. Some unusual themes in the minis creations, but this is one of those sets that has a sleeper Halloween set in it. That's what I wanted to point out. It also gives you like a pumpkin lord and some witches that are they're not visible anywhere. So if you already want this kind of setup, it's got
this is undead Stormcast.
Yes, basically. And he's doing a three army or 3 release army of them. They're super cool looking.
It's even got
Um,
the star dragon as a very creepy, horrific monster dragon.
yep, yep, and it's got terrain.
Hmm.
So like it looks like a really fun little setup. And like I said, it's 1 of 3. Super neat. And lots of hero minis that you could totally use for D&D or whatever. But it's obviously going to be a full army setup. Uh, then since we're almost out of time, my last one,
Okay.
very different again. I'm going to jump over here to Great Grimoire.
This is not
And
one we see a lot on the show.
no, and actually I really like them, but this is actually more of a you thing than a me thing. First off, you get cake and like dessert bases for people, which I thought was
Mhm.
awesome. And then it's twisted evil candy, and the candy monsters and the stuffed animal monsters.
I
Um,
want the bear monsters. I love the bear monsters.
yes, the little stuffed bear monsters are adorable, but very on brand. And I think I've been talking about this with the dovetailing of D&D and Magic the Gathering right now. This is very much an Eldraine. If you want to run Eldraine horror, especially with the nightmare stuff that's going on in there, then I would say you've got your candy monsters, which are a big thing right now, and there's
Mhm.
tons of them. All sorts of really fun, flavorful, like ice cream cone monsters, and little like pumpkin, of course, monsters. And you get your like Hansel and Gretel vibes. There's a twisted candy, like evil witch house. The whole thing. It's got such flavor, so unusual, and just the sort of thing I think could really call it out. Because again, this to me is the FOMO set, right? You're not gonna have known this was coming out. You're not gonna follow Great Grimoire unless you already kind of like Victorian age, weird, kind of creepy, cool minis or whatever. And then
Mhm.
suddenly, boom, this is now in their backlog, and you have to pay $40 for it.
Right.
So I'd say snag this if you want that little moment.
I do.
And
I
a boo
really
boo,
do.
hello.
Yeah. There's this anime that I absolutely adore and love called Sleepy Princess and Demon Castle.
Hmm.
Um, and the basic premise is it's a comedy anime where the demon lord, in order to assert the rights of all demon kind, kidnaps the princess from the kingdom of light.
As you do.
Um, but he feels really bad about it. So he's trying to do all he can to basically pamper her while she's kidnapped, while like putting on these like overly dramatic stage battles for like he's basically waiting for the heroes to come rescue her, and they're putting on like just setting up all these stage battles and choreographing. Okay, then my sidekick is going to my minions are going to come out from stage right, and then like the hero's going to, like, he's planning all this while she sneaks out of her cell and then causes all sorts of chaos, and it's super wholesome and funny, and it's just like a glorious show. But one of the things that she does very frequently is she bribes the little teddy bear demons that haunt the castle, and these little monsters look like the teddy demons.
Nice.
And I
Uh,
very much want my own slew of teddy demons to pamper and cuddle and keep around.
Alric just got in and said, "Where are those figures from?" They're Great Grimoire. Is the tribe or Patreon, and a fantastic creator, by
I
the way.
think this wins. I think this one set here wins Halloween this year.
It might. It's one of the more unique ones for sure, for sure,
For if you want value for money, Dragon Trappers.
for sure.
If you
Yeah,
want the most unique, fun thing we've seen this season, Great Grimoire.
yeah.
Yep.
Candy Crime Set is what it's
Yep.
called.
This is glorious. I love it. I love it. Okay, and we are now way over time.
Yep. Yep.
So we are going to have to cut this episode short now. If you want to find more and listen to more about our podcast, you can do so over at printyourgames.com. You can also find us on all the socials or over on YouTube. We appreciate it if you like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff to help boost the algorithm, or give us actually the absolute best thing you can do is give us a review on Spotify or iTunes, because that helps boost us up and let them know that people care. The audience has grown quite a bit, and we appreciate every single one of you listening to us. We would love some reviews. That would just really help us reach more people. And that's in lieu of us starting a Patreon, that's the best way to support the show.
Yep. And if you're really bored, you can follow me on TikTok, same name.
You should totally follow Christian on TikTok. It's worth it.
All right. Well, any
until next
last
time,
moment? Okay.
Until next time, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param.
I'm Kristen Sards, also known as Seventh Mastery. And don't forget to use your screen protector.